Hey everybody, this is Matt from endsickness.org. Today I'm going to be talking about mast cell activation and the things you don't know about it. Okay. Before I do that, let me first say I am not a medical doctor. This is not medical advice. This is for informational and educational purposes only, based upon my experiences. So back to the good stuff. Okay. Mast cell activation. People think that this is some diagnostic term that's like a lifelong thing. It's, oh, I got mast cell activation, or oh, it sounds like mast cell activation. Well, it is a label that people put on a group of symptoms. It is not some diagnosis that is lifelong and inescapable. I want to clarify. What's causing it are one of three things: what we're consuming, what we're inhaling, what we're perceiving, or the stress in our life. Okay? So what we're consuming, typically people who have mast cell activation are consuming way too much meat, or they're consuming dairy, eggs, nuts, seeds, gluten, processed foods in large amounts. Okay? The problem is when you have symptoms of mast cell activation, that means your gut is already leaky. You already have a gut issue. When you have a gut issue, breaking down proteins is very difficult. So you want to remove the foods that have the most complex protein structures, like your gluten, nuts, seeds, eggs, dairy, etc. Right? In your heavy meats, your beef, your red meat, those things, etc. Those are just absolutely crucial to being able to go ahead and get over mast cell activation. People are often eating these foods I mentioned, and they're also having spices, or they're having 10 different supplements they're taking as well, or different supplements that have 10 different ingredients in them, and they're wondering why they have mast cell activation symptoms. So the key point I want to mention about group number one, what we're consuming, is we can't take too many supplements. We can't take synthetic supplements. We can't take supplements that have 10 ingredients in them. We can't eat meals that have 10 ingredients in them. We can't eat those foods that I mentioned: the gluten, dairy, nuts, seeds, eggs, the red meats, etc. Or maybe even the meat for some people, depending upon how reactive you are. And I'll talk more about that. We have to go more plant-based with more fiber. The fiber is going to feed the good bacteria in your stomach. That's going to keep the immune system and the mast cells calm. That's also going to remove the waste out of your body. It's going to help your detox system. It's going to help everything for your body to move in the right direction towards healing. So let me talk about the next part outside of diet. Number two, environment. Okay, mycotoxins. When people say, oh yeah, I know, but my house doesn't have mold. The other one I had lived in maybe had mold, but this one doesn't, right? You don't realize the concept of mycotoxin antibodies. Okay, when someone is exposed to mycotoxins in a significant amount at some point in their life, or even if they just are someone who's sensitive, more sensitive than other people, then they start to produce antibodies to these mycotoxins, and it's in really high amounts, okay, at that time. And the antibodies don't just go away. They carry with you for years sometimes. So you could be exposed one time, for a few years at a house you were living in, and all of a sudden, every place you go to after that, it seems like you're reacting to all these places too, because now you have the antibodies to the mycotoxins. And this is the thing that most people don't understand about mast cell activation. Yet another thing is that you have to test your mycotoxin antibodies, your antibody levels to mycotoxins. This will help you be able to understand if you have truly have a mold-related illness, or mycotoxins are at the center of your symptoms. So you go to mymycolab.com. It covers all of the 16 mycotoxins, and it covers your IgG and your IgE antibodies, your IgG, or your past exposure, your exposure the last several years to mycotoxins, and if your immune system had high levels of exposure. And then your IgE is your current exposure. So it'll show you your antibody levels to past and present exposure. And this is the most definitive thing when you have mast cell activation. These are the things that you must know if you want to get over this. Number one is going to be your mycotoxin lab most often, right? But number two is definitely the diet. A lot of the time we can make progress and get almost all the way better without even getting out of a house that has mycotoxins. If we do the diet, we do the right supplements, we do the stress reduction, the deep breathing. But some people are bad enough that the mycotoxin lab is, if they're incapacitated and reacting to everything under the sun, 5-6 different foods, they're literally disabled. Then at that point you really want to look at the mycotoxins first. Otherwise, we're looking at the food first before we do anything, right? So the third part about mast cell activation you got to understand is that stress, emotional stress, past trauma. Whenever you have things that remind you of past stress or trauma that have not been resolved, then you have this subconscious knee-jerk reaction to these things and this emotional response or emotional feeling about these things. And this is kind of how it works. When people have mast cell activation, they become hyperreactive to everything, not just foods, not just chemical smells, not just, not just mold. I mean, to everything, right? So this includes emotions. This includes, stressors of any type. When you don't get good sleep, when they're exercising too much, when their body just gets pushed over the line in the stress category, it'll increase the immune response and make them more reactive, turn on that fight or flight response even further into the brain. And this is what happens. So the last thing I want to say about mast cell activation that's absolutely critical is you got to embrace this concept. Slower is better and less is more. Slower is better and less is more. And let me say, slower is better. The slower you breathe, the slower you do things, the less frantic things are, the more about what's right in front of you and not all the way out there 3 weeks or a month from now, the possibilities. Slower is better. Slow, deep breathing is my favorite way to recenter when you're trying to overcome these symptoms of mast cell activation. You just slow, deep breathing. Close your eyes. Breathe all the way out, and then breathe all the way in. Once you're all the way out, do it as slow as you possibly can. Repeat that over the course of 10, 15 minutes. Do that a few times during the day. Take time to really slow down, wind down, get your body out of fight or flight, get your body back into a relaxed state. In terms of less is more, less supplements is better, less ingredients per meal, less ingredients per supplement. The last thing you want is a supplement with 25 ingredients in it or a food that has 20 ingredients in it. These things are going to cause you problems. Okay, so these are key concepts I wanted to address. Thanks for watching, everybody. Go to my website, endsickness.org. I got hundreds of articles based upon my personal healing, the healing of my daughter, many of my clients, and thank you so much for watching.